Hi, my name is Carlos. I'm doing drug use in Vietnam. First, I'm going to tell you some drugs they use in Vietnam, like heroin, deadly drug, really awful, made from poppy seeds. It's a foreign, Asian, Arabic kind of drug. Really bad for you. It can cause HIV, AIDS, and hepatitis by the transmission of diseases when you're using needles. Uh, to share the injection of the drug into your bloodstream. There's also it can cause heart attacks, miscarriages, and death. Most certainly. Opium, narcotic drug, marijuana, psychedelic acid trip in the head, codeine, morphine-related drug that is mainly used for pain relief. Excessive use, you just become addicted, and it's awful. Anyway, barbiturate, depressant drug which causes relaxation, sleepiness, excess abuse. It's life-threatening as well as causes memory loss and inter-functioning loss. Amphetamines can cause brain damage, psychosis, and malnutrition when abused, but regularly prescribed for um, underdeveloped minds. When they want to think a little more. Okay. Well, a few things that my assignment for the drug use in Vietnam is supposed to tell you is um, why is it significant the use of drugs in Vietnam. One, um, right now, right now in our current world, part of the reason we have so much crime and addiction to the drugs is because, um, like, remember the baby boomers, the Cold War, and so forth. It seemed that in the Vietnam War, the use of drugs becomes so apparent, so awful, um, that when the soldiers come back home, they're so addicted to it and they're so wanting it that it becomes a demand and people come and sell it, which causes the crime market, which you can see now. And it's just awful. $1 billion world market illegal share of drugs and sellings. Um, and during the war, it was used for like combat and recon missions, so the soldiers wouldn't be worn out. Like part of the contributions that drugs had on the war were were mainly negative, to both the American country and to the world later on in the future and after the war. Of course, immediately when the soldiers came home and they were drug dependent and awful and just messed up and they did awful things for drugs. Okay, they contributed to the war's cause, caused many deaths or lives because they were narcotic drugs, like heroin, they call, or marijuana. What do you call? They messed you up. You weren't thinking straight. You were delusional, hallucinating. You might have shot your own brethren, and you might have used some equipment wrongly, and just blew things up, which is bad, especially if you're in your camp and there's gas somewhere. Okay, let's see. Now I'm gonna read you some useful information I got from different websites, and it's all put together. Yeah, I hope it makes sense to you, which I hope it will. Okay, during the Vietnam War, due to its devastation of drug abuse by the U.S. Military man, Congress discharged a number of soldiers on duty, not costing a reduction in its problem-solving strategy to, solve the problem of drug abuse, which just in turn brought in new soldiers who got addicted to it, and it just fed a system of drug addicts back into the United States after the war, which is awful. With those already having independence, possibly a deadly addiction to the drugs, they were dismissed honorably or court-martialed to alive. The case of addiction of drug abuse increases even after two Congress members, John Murphy and Robert Steele, the ones that found out about the drug problem and presented the court-martialing and honorable discharge to soldiers. With such rapid introduction of junkies in social frame of the American system, heroin addicts became a problem that even Nixon formed a group called the Special Action Office Drug Abuse Prevention Group, which is called SAUDAP, a group which coordinates efforts to was used to evaluate the drug policy for the military. Most military men toward the end of the war had become addicted to foreign drugs. America, at the final moments of the end for the war, had its highest drug use in the country, acknowledged by the fact that most men who enlisted had never tried such drugs, like heroin, or if they did, it was just a small amount and a low percentage of them. But now a wide margin, like 80% of those soldiers that went to the war either tried it a little or tried it a lot, or mainly became addicted to it. Um, acknowledged by the fact that most who enlisted had never tried such pure drugs, it caused psychological withdrawals and changes and problems that remained throughout their lives, especially when they got back into normal civilian life and they couldn't get access to it, which really caused problems for the social life everywhere, families, friends, economy. By 1971, over half the recruits had tried opiate drugs, which is, wow, really messed up. Well, in my view, I guess. A major problem with the use of drugs in the Vietnam War was the physical and psychological impairment of the soldiers' ability to carry out their duties, which I think it did definitely present from a few articles I read that they weren't able to march, they weren't able to accurately carry out their duties when they were supposed to, which really caused problems. It might have been a wide margin for why we lost a lot of wars or weren't able to capture our enemies during the Vietnam War, because we were all delusional, high on drugs and thinking a bush here and a bush there and bush and fire, and there's nothing, and we just aimlessly blow fire. Okay, let's see. The drugs prevented death by impairment of soldiers' abilities. They could easily die. Other enemies could just come and kill them easily. Studies, because they were immune, or like they were used to the drugs. Studies done on of returning soldiers from the Vietnam War with um, by urine samples showed that over 80% of those that were tested had either done, tried, or did some far really strong narcotic drugs than any of the drugs here in America back in the Vietnam War time period. That proved that even those that had narcotic addictions, even before the war, to previous drugs, became became increasingly even more dependent on the new drugs, which caused a bunch of problems. And that is my presentation. Thank you very much for listening.